North Korea has test-fired 3 ballistic missiles off its east coast. These missiles were launched just hours after US President Joe Biden concluded his Asia trip. The trip included a visit to South Korea, which was focused on boosting measures aimed at countering the nuclear-armed state. Reports of 3 missiles being fired in space in less than an hour from the Sunan area of Pyongyang towards Japan's sea were confirmed by Seoul and Tokyo. While the Japanese media states that the missiles have appeared to have fallen outside Japan's exclusive economic zone, although the country has called it a provocative act.
日米米韓首脳会談や日米豪印首脳会合が開催された直後におけるこのようなミサイルの発射は明らかに挑発行動であり断じて許されません。
The United States and South Korean officials had already issued a warning suspecting a missile being test-fired by North Korea during Biden's maiden visit to Asia as the US president. The White House says that the president was already briefed on the launches. This comes after Biden and his South Korean counterpart Yoon Suk-yeol agreed to expand military drills, deploy more US strategic assets. If the need arises to counter North Korea's intensifying weapons test, the two also offered to send COVID-19 vaccines to Pyongyang as the isolated nation is currently battling its first confirmed outbreak. But there has been no response from the country to diplomatic overtures. This is not the first time when North Korea has test-fired a missile. The country conducted a flurry of missile tests this year, ranging from hypersonic weapons to test-firing its largest intercontinental ballistic missiles for the first time in nearly 5 years. It also appears to be preparing to test a nuclear weapon for the first time since 2017. Now for more on this, we have a correspondent, Phoebe Amoroso, joining us from Tokyo. Phoebe, thank you for joining us. Now, these missile launches were just hours after US President Joe Biden concluded his trip. Now, of course, like we mentioned earlier as well, there were reports, estimates that North Korea has been waiting for the perfect moment for such a launch. Now, even ahead of Joe Biden's visit, that is. What can you tell us about the significance and the implications of this going forward?
Yes, so there were warnings from both US, South Korean and Japanese officials that North Korea could conduct a missile launch or even conduct a nuclear test to coincide with Biden's visit. And that's as satellite imagery and other evidence suggested that it had fully finished its preparations. Now, Biden's visit was very much focused on defense. He first came to East Asia and he stopped by South Korea and then moved on to Japan. And North Korea was very high on the agenda. And so it's likely that Pyongyang would want to send a message that it plans to continue with its militarization. Now, what came out of this meeting between South Korean President Yoon and President Biden was that both sides agreed to expand their military exercises and their military training as necessary. And if North Koreans' provocations continue further, potentially even dispatch more US weapons to the region. However, President Biden did give an offer of COVID-19 assistance to North Korea and said that he would be willing to meet with Kim if Kim was sincere and serious. There's not been any response on that front. And so we can see from this launch that North Korea is still committing to its weapons program, regardless of the struggle that it's having with COVID-19 domestically. And at the moment, there do not seem to be many avenues for diplomatic discussions to continue.
All right, Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us with all your updates on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.